As usual, this is Diesel We the People News. I'm not an attorney. Everything I'm saying or doing is just opinion or learning base videos. The more we can learn, the more we'll be able to protect ourselves by any means necessary, which is our liberty. Alright? Some says to draw side tools to protect yourself, and others is to fight with words in court. Now, how can we protect ourselves? Well, let's take a listen to this.
And this is what we did. This is what we did to help out Dr. Kevorkian. We made sure that his lawyer got this knowledge. We went in there and we dug up a writ of Quoranto. A writ of Quoranto. Alright? Now, this doesn't look like much, but let me tell you something. What we're talking about doing here, see, most cities, at least in the state of Michigan, are by Public Act 230 Public Acts or Public Act 287 of Public Acts, and in every one of them there is a rights and powers section. Usually it's recorded at 2.2 or 3.1, and it basically says, and I quote, "Subject to the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan, the city of or the township of has rights and powers too." And then it starts listing the rights and powers. Right to have a police department, right to have a fire department, right to have a city hall, right, and it starts listing all these powers. Now, the antithesis to the argument is that if they're not within the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan, they don't have any rights and powers. Does that make sense to everybody? In other words, they're in violation of their corporate charter, their franchise. And they promised they would be within the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan. Now, a lot of people, they don't understand the power of this argument, so I want to really push this one home. I want you to understand. Whenever these little townships and these little cities and what have you, they start acting like King Farouk and that you don't matter and that they don't got to listen to you, this is what I want you to do. You ask them a point question and ask them, are you violating my constitutionally secured civil rights by however you claim they are? Because if you are, you have just waived your right to be the city of. And they'll laugh at you for a little bit, okay? Then you explain to them Public Act 230 of Public Acts, which states the rights and powers section subject to the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan. You have rights and powers. The antithesis to that argument is if you're not going to be within the Constitution of the United States or the general laws of the state of Michigan and you're going to violate my constitutional rights and trample my rights, what we're going to do here is we're going to go for a writ of mandamus in quo warranto. Well, that's a legal term, fancy legal term. But it is an ancient law that goes way back to England in the ancient times. And basically here is a judgment and a capious action for it, right? You put down here the case. The case came on regularly for trial before the Honorable, and you put the judge's name in there, whatever it is, on a jury trial or non-jury trial, dated such and such. The name appeared as for your counsel, and the name appeared for opposing counsel, right? The court heard the testimony and examined the proofs offered by the parties. The court considered itself fully advised in the premise, filed in its findings of fact and conclusions of law, and directed that judgments be entered in accordance with such findings, right? Which means they figured out that they violated your constitutional rights. They didn't have a right to violate your constitutional rights, and in the hearing you showed they violated your constitutional rights, and the judge figured out they violated your constitutional rights. So now, for your prayer for relief, we're going to get this quo warranto. And this is exactly what happened to the Honorable Dr. Kevorkian. You'll notice that he was in jail and they were hammering the tail out of him. The next thing you know, everything got real quiet. Nobody said nothing. And then the next thing you know, they were letting him go and they were minding their business. Now this is how it happened. It is therefore ordered and adjudged and decreed. 1. The defendant corporation, the city of, you put down what name, has violated provisions of the act under which it was created, and also has violated provisions of Public Act 230 of Public Act Section 2.2 Rights and Powers Section. In other words, it didn't uphold the Constitution of the United States or the general laws of the state of Michigan. Defendant corporation, the city of, whatever, Pontiac, whatever, accordingly has forfeited its charter and become liable to be dissolved by the abuse of its power. How much money am I talking about here, folks? We'd be in about 9 decimal places plus, wouldn't you, don't you think? Now, do you think they're going to bother some little doctor when they're looking at shutting down a major city? What do you think's going to happen? Everything's going to get quiet and they're going to let the good doctor go. Same thing for you. Now, defendant corporation, you name them, therefore is dissolved, and the corporate rights, privileges, and franchise of defendants are declared forfeited to the people. Defendant corporation, you name them, as trustees, directors, managers, and other official officers, attorneys, and agents, are forever restrained and enjoined from exercising any of the corporate franchise powers, rights, and/or privileges previously exercised by defendants at city, and from collecting or receiving any debts and/or demands belonging to or held by defendant, city, whatever, and from paying out or in any manner interfering with, transferring, or delivering to any person any of the deposits, money, securities, property, and effects of the defendant, city, or held by it. You name a trustee, which the state would do, probably the Attorney General, after your complaint is filed, is appointed receiver of all of the property, real and personal things in action and effects of defendant city corporation held by and vested in defendants, or in or to which defendant may be in any wise interested or entitled thereto. Plaintiff, the people of the state of whatever, that's us, state of Michigan, shall recover of defendant corporation, whatever, city of, the sum of damages, real and personal, got me? They don't like that when you start talking that, because they can go 100 million, 3 times that amount. Punitive damages, they get a little upset. As costs and disbursements of this action, and the receivers is directed to pay this sum out of their pocket to whoever, the Attorney General, but you can have a person stipulated on there as an injured party. Now, you put down there, the Honorable Judge so-and-so presiding, the date entered, and he signs that, and that city is no longer a city. You see, when they violate your Constitution, this is one of the most powerful tools that you can use. And when you jam this on, you better wear a bulletproof vest to court, because you're probably going to get shot at by the time you get home. But it's nice to threaten. You know, you just threaten. Just drop one of them in the mail and say, if I don't get reasonable cause for my action in the near future, you're going to get one of these in the mail for real. Here is a summons for quo warranto. This is for the start of the thing. Right here, summons, form 41. By the way, you can get this in 21 AM juris forms and practice. Your practical forms and practice. All right? You name the party, you put down there who you are, the people of the state of Michigan versus, you are summoned to appear before which and which court on such and such a date to show by what authority you claim to have, use, and or enjoy the rights and liberties and franchise, namely the corporation, city of, set out and complained of in such and such a time, summons, and further to do and receive all things which the court shall then order concerning you. This is kind of like pulling their driver's license for drunk driving. Now, that's an oversimplification, but sometimes these city halls operate like a drunken sailor, and they just think they can abuse citizens' rights and trash them. You know who I am? No, I don't care. You know who I am? I'm your boss. I'm the people. You're elected to work for me. And I'm trying to be nice, so I'd appreciate it if we can sit down and work this out. But if we can't work this out, I'm going to sock it to you, baby. You got me? And that's basically how I feel about it. Now, we can get into some of these other things. Right here, this is a very important point. I'm trying to get this across to people, and you try and tell them, and they kind of look at you with this blank, starry-eyed look. But in the Constitution of the state of Michigan, the latest and greatest, the very first thing they talk about, notice it says Section 1. All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal benefit, security, and protection. Now let me ask you a question. Do you feel equal benefit? I don't. You know? Equal protection and discrimination. No person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws. Right? Nor shall any person be denied the enjoyment of the civil or political rights, or be discriminated against in the exercise thereof, because of religion, race, color, or national origin. The legislature shall implement this section by appropriate legislation. You know? and they start going down through all freedom of worship. You know, I mean, this is what we're talking about here, folks. You know your rights, you got them. You don't know them, you don't got them. You get back in here to police powers generally. This is something you got to understand. Generally, the police power is the exercise of the sovereign right of the government to promote order, safety, and health and morals, and the general welfare of the society within constitutional limits. Within constitutional limits. Did everybody hear that? Within constitutional limits. Generally, the police power is the exercise of the sovereign right of the government to promote order, safety, health, and moral, and general welfare of the society within the constitutional limits. As otherwise stated, the police power of the state is a power or organization of a system of regulations to foster the health, order, and comfort of the people, and to prevent and or punish injuries and offenses to the public. Right? But it has to be within constitutional limitations, and it embraces all rules for the protection of life, liberty, and property. I mean, that's a contradiction of logic today, folks. That doesn't happen. You and I both know it. I mean, who are they kidding? They ain't kidding me. Okay? So, it's up to you, and it's up to me. And we got to get a hold of this book right here. You get a hold of this Constitution, and you start learning that Constitution, and you quote a chapter and verse, and guess what? You'll notice a unique, different change. One, after a while, they start to listen. And you actually affect what is called positive change. And every time they see you, and that goofy hat you wear, they go, oh, for God's sake, don't give that guy no ticket. I've actually been pulled over, listening to the program. Didn't have no plates on my car. Policeman called. He says, you got positive ID on the guy? And a friend of mine was taping it off his police radio. He said, yeah, it's him. He said, well, for God's sake, don't give that guy no ticket. And the guy says, Sarge, he ain't got no plates on his car. I said, I don't give a damn what he ain't got on his car. Don't give that guy no ticket. He said, but Sarge, he told me he's just been waiting to fight it and beat it all the way to the Supreme Court, and I wrote that on the ticket. He says, you give that guy a ticket? I said, I just told you not to give that guy a ticket. What are you, deaf? You got some problem with your hearing? He said, I told you not to give that guy a ticket. Now, why did you give that guy a ticket? He said, Sarge, he ain't got no plates on the car. I said, I told you I don't care what he ain't got on the car. This is all recorded on a radio broadcast. So everybody was laughing. The police were laughing. Everybody was laughing. His buddies were laughing. They were ribbing him over the radio. The sergeant told him, all right, knock it off. Clear the net. This is serious. He said, fine. He said, you give him a ticket? He says, fine. He says, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, I want you to be in here when the city attorney comes in here. And he says, you're going to personally deliver the ticket to him, and he ain't going to be real happy.
Anywho, y'all decide. This is Diesel We the People News. Never, never, never look just straight forward. Always look around you so you be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. For God's sake, let's try to get out of this cockadissonance. Till next time. Bye, y'all.